Welcome to Ring the Damn Bell. I am KG. I have my newest member of the podcast, David Mitchell, aka Dirty Mitch, and he's gonna be with us tonight until Mark gets back. Otherwise, he's with us on Thursdays and Saturdays. And as always, our special co-star, the cooker, Bob Cook. What's going on, Bob?
By special, are you implying I'm retarded? Yes, I said the word. Better beep that out because, politically correctness, you don't say those things nowadays.
I am definitely inferring, I'm saying that you're that at times. We all are. What's going on, David?
Not too much, man. Just, working and, like I said, saving, tick-tock, one day closer to WrestleMania and my trek to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I bet you're excited for that. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the show. Get it from your eyes being there live. But we're not there yet. Where we're at right now is still the road to WrestleMania, which brings us to the podcast. We'll be talking about Raw from last night. Let's get into it. Raw. The show started off with Raw General Manager Adam Pearce introducing the Women's World Champion Io Sky and challenger Bianca Belair ahead of their match at WrestleMania. Rhea Ripley followed to the biggest ovation of the three. What this basically boiled down to is this is finally announced that it is going to be a three-way. Pierce proceeded to officially announce, like I said, that the triple threat match. But to the chagrin of Belair, she said that normally she'd be annoyed because she put all the work in to get her shot, but she wants to put her hands on Rhea Ripley. They got each other's face, and once again, little Io Sky tried to get in the middle of it. Rhea Ripley just moved her out of the way, which led to her going to the ropes without Bianca Belair and Rhea realizing it. And she comes off the top rope with a drop kick into the back of Rhea Ripley, slamming into Belair. David, are you what do you think about this being a triple threat match now?
I kind of thought that that's what they had already announced after the kind of the debacle when Bianca was the special guest referee. I thought that was they were already leaning towards that, so I thought there wasn't no surprise. I do like the way though that Bianca did lay it out. Hey, I'm, normally I'd be pissed off, I put in the work and you walked in the front door. A la the same promo that she had a few years ago with Charlotte Flair, right? When Charlotte made the I am the line promo, right?
Right.
But I also like it the way she said it. No, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're in it because I'm not scared of you. She laid that out there that she was not scared of her at all. Right. And almost to the point where the way they're casting Io to the side, without implying that Io is scared, like she's the third wheel in this, even though she's the champion. But I'm not surprised that it's a three-way. A little shocked that it's almost like they're making Io, though, the third wheel of this whole ordeal.
Right. Bob, I know you're going to be excited to see these three women in the match together, possibly rolling all over the mat.
Oh.
What do you think about this? Do you think this is the right call, a three-way match? Or
I do believe Bianca's correct. She is working towards the match because you don't get abs like that laying around. I'm proof of that. But I think the reason that they're making it three-way is because it's not as interesting with what's the other girl's name? Rio, Eeny, Meeny, Mio. It's not as interesting. So you get the three-way. You got Bianca and then the other girl the most over, Rhea, And so you put them in there, and she gets the benefit from it. She'll probably win. What's her name? The little kid.
Yeah,
Oh, little kid. She's like 5 foot tall, right?
Yeah, I agree. Matches between Io and Belair is not a Wrestling Mania worthy match. I'm concerned. Adding Ripley into it definitely makes it more exciting. I don't know if you guys picked this up last night, but during this, um, Adam Pearce, he introduced Ripley as representing Judgment Day. So apparently Adam Pearce was maybe smoking a little bit of the devil's lettuce. He messed up with it, thought that was funny. We all make mistakes.
He misses the production meetings. Too much time in catering, I would guess.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. The first match is the women's intercontinental championship. Bailey versus Lyra Valkyra. I'll be honest with you, didn't really care about this match too much. Thought it was boring. The only thing that might be a little bit interesting is that Bailey and Lyra will be tagging this coming Friday night in a match. Other than that, this match wasn't on a show. I wouldn't really cared. Bob, did you care at all about this match?
Not really. I do like the fact that Bailey didn't win. Like I said before, she's been there long enough. She's had her chances. Babyface, heel, champion, non-champion. Put someone else in the spot. Put someone else in the spot. I don't care how nice Bailey is. I don't care how many babies she kisses. I don't care how many autographs she signs. Get somebody in there a little better looking and a little better shape. Oh, did I say that? Superficial Bob strikes again on a Tuesday night.
I tell you, I think I would rather watch paint dry than to watch a match with Valkyra.
A nice blue paint, of course, though. Bright blue.
She just doesn't have a whole lot of personality to me. It's just kind of boring. David, your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I tend to agree and disagree. I disagree with the fact that, I enjoyed the match. I mean, there wasn't no, high spots, nothing spectacular. But KG, like we alluded to Saturday when I was referring to about what they're doing with the women's intercontinental, it's like it's a title that's just there, and I feel like they're using Bailey with her quote unquote star power ability to try to elevate that title, no matter who it's got on it. And right now, unfortunately, the viewing audience and the paying audience aren't buying it either way. But also, I won't say give it a chance. I mean, I thought the same thing at first about the way Damage Control went at first. It's like they came out hot and it's stale. Then they got a little hot. Now they're, of course, their original intuition is gone. But I think that the fans aren't buying it. And that's why it doesn't matter who that belt's on, either one of them, the women's intercontinental or the United States title, without a person like a Rhea Ripley or a Bianca Belair or even a Jade, those mean nothing. And unfortunately, the ladies are going to pay for it because nobody's going to watch.
Yeah, so this tag team match on Friday, I kind of think it's a throwaway match. Because what it is a gauntlet match that Bailey and Valkyra will be competing in to possibly get a match against the women's tag team champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I just don't think Bailey and Valkyra will get to that point. So it's kind of a throwaway match just to have another team in this gauntlet match. Next, we have the LWO versus American Made and El Grande Americano. Entertaining match. It wasn't bad. Not a big fan of the LWO though. But Chad Gable as El Grande Americano, he is pretty damn entertaining. They wound up beating the Creed brothers defeated the LWO with, of course, El Grande Americano. What did you think about this match, David? And while you're talking about it, I'll be right back. I have to run and grab something.
All right, go ahead. I thought it was, at that entertaining. It's what it was supposed to be. Bob, I'm not sure, what your take is on the luchadors. I mean, they're entertaining, right? But outside of the entertainment factor, they don't do much for me. I'm 49 years old. I mean, I think they cater that faction more towards the kids, right? Because they will sell merch. But
exactly.
I mean,
action figures, masks, that's what it's for.
And so, but as an adult, okay, like I said, entertaining high spots, but just that it. Now, Chad Gable is the unsung hero in this because he's proven. If you go look at his track record in the WWE, and I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about even before when he was on his own with the long hair before American Alpha. It's almost like whatever you throw at him, he can hit it almost out the park. And this character right here, unfortunately, is no less. He's doing the best with what they've given him. And what's it got him? He got him a match with Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. But other than merch, I'm not too much into that one.
Really, because I think that this is actually really entertaining. I think Chad Gable's doing such a great job with this. Although,
well, he just said that. Other than Chad Gable,
yeah.
No one cares about the rest of the LOW or whatever the heck they call it. No one cares about those people.
See what you missed. Let me real quick fill him back in, Cooker. While you was gone, what I said was what this did for me. Okay, it was an entertaining match. The luchadors can put on some entertaining high spots. Like wow. But it, as a 49-year-old adult male, does nothing for me because I'm not into much, merch, dolls, and all that, and that's what they're good for. Other than Chad Gable, who
no
I
love action figures.
Well, I do too. I collect them. I've got ECW originals. I've got all kinds of stuff. But I mean, to go out right now, like,
oh,
I sleep
wait a
minute.
Mine.
Wait, I didn't mean to say that.
I used to do that. Stone Cold, but hey, that's a different conversation, different podcast. But anyway, the Chad Gable factor in all of this is what makes it worth watchable, right?
Yeah. So the poor Chad Gable, though, he's from Minnesota. He had to miss the match because he had the sniffles. That's why El Grande Americano was in the match because Chad Gable was too sick. I think that's just funny. Bob, are you into this whole storyline with Chad Gable being El Grande Americano?
No, but I do appreciate last night playing a nod to the mighty Yankees, Jerry Gray and Bob Cook, when we won the the NWA Florida Tag Team titles 38 years ago by loading the masks. I know I'm exposing it now, but we did load the mask. But that was 38 years ago. So
yeah, now,
that's as old school as it gets, loading the mask.
Who would have thought loading things would have got over back
then?
Oh,
no, nobody.
I know that.
I mean, tell that to Buddy Roberts and then with the loaded glove.
This is just my fantasy.
Exactly.
I know this will never happen, but I would really love to see within the next week they build up this match, which we'll talk about. Rey Mysterio against El Grande Americano as a mask versus mask match, with Rey Mysterio having to lose this mask, which puts him over the edge, causing him to turn heel, causing him to reunite with his son, him being the leader of Judgment Day. I think that would really put Judgment Day at another level, and it will be WWE being able to utilize Rey Mysterio without really putting him in the ring very much. He still has 3 years left to his contract. He's at that age now. I think it would be good for Rey, and I think it would be good for Judgment Day as well. Again, don't think that's going to happen. I'm 99.9%. It's just my fantasy booking. Next, we go to what I consider the best promo of the storyline, which is Jey Uso confronting Gunther. I like the seriousness of Jey Uso. He even told the crowd with his hand gestures to stop doing the yeet stuff. Of course, the crowd didn't listen. They got a little quiet, kind of whispering it, but then it got loud again. But I love the side of Jey Uso. He was very serious. He was very focused. And his whole purpose of this was to tell Gunther, you messed up, man, because before I was scared of you. You had me. But you went and you messed with my family. I'm not scared of you no more. Now I'm pissed. I like this side of Jey Uso. Bob, was this a much better side of Jey Uso than what we've seen thus far?
I suppose. Although I did laugh out loud when he said, "You violated my twin." I don't know why. I went somewhere and I laughed, but
Just
it did make me laugh.
thought.
But like I said, Gunther bores me to death. So, and I hate every other word out of Uso's got to say oos. It's like his version of brother or bro, like Vince Russo. Bro, oos, oos. Get out of here. What else? Crap.
Or bruv by Will Ospreay.
Yep. David, what about you? Do you think this was his best promo through, so far in the storyline?
Oh, absolutely, because I think it got him away from being more of the comical entertainer part, right? And to the more serious. One thing I would have changed is his total appearance, right? I would have come out, not no yeet merch, no chains, no nothing else, straight black jeans, black shoes, black. Oh, will that get over? I mean, I don't know. Steve Austin said it wouldn't, or Eric Bischoff told it. But I mean, I would have come out in that seriousness. Like if the way he came off, hey, you fucked with my brother, right? So, I didn't grow up with brothers, but if somebody messed with my brother and we're coming to fight, I'm coming serious, not, pretty boy look. I, get it. It's to sell things. But if you're wanting to make it a little bit more believable than you could have, I mean, they did a pretty good job making it more serious. Yes. And that's just one thing that I would have tweaked to make the appearance to the television audience, right?
Well, I tell you, David and Bob, my favorite part of what Uso said was this. Before WrestleMania, hug and kiss your family, he said, promising to pray for both of them, but mostly him and the man he is about to become. I'ma get you. That was kind of Jay going on the dark side.
Yeah, that's what I memean. So you come
that.
out in a different attire, in a different appearance to appear more serious. It's kind of like, if you're coming out as a pretty boy, preppy pretty boy, I'm not going to take you as serious if you're talking about, I'm going to come to get you. But if I see that you went to a darker place, and not only by your words but your appearance, then it's kind of like, okay, hold on, this is getting good. Let me get my popcorn here. I don't need to go to the bathroom right now. I'll be in the cup.
Yep. So next we go to the World Tag Team Championship, the War Raiders versus the New Day. The New Day defeated the War Raiders via disqualification, which means, of course, they may have come up on top, but they didn't get the belts. War Raiders kept the belt. This match was just okay for me. I'm not big War Raiders fans, and I am, really not really big on the New Day. I thought maybe that would change once they became heels. To me, they're just as boring as what they were as baby faces. David, what do you think about the New Day now as heels versus them being baby faces? Do you like them more? Do you like them less? Have you ever liked them?
I've never really liked them as far as, okay, yeah, they've done some entertaining segments and spots, right? But I think remember, let's rewind a bit. Remember when they first came, they first came out, they were heels to the point where they got over and people started cheering them, right? Now it's like, it's hard, it seems like it's hard for people to boo, not really boo them, but they're trying too hard to be the heel now after so long of being a baby face, right? It's like we want to be heels, but now instead of just letting it come to them, it's like they're trying too hard to the point where and not just booing them, but like the crowd shitting on them, right?
Yeah.
It's like, It's like, boo them, get them the fuck out of here, and
Right.
bring on the next segment. It's the way the crowd seems to react at times.
Yeah, well, I still say that WWE missed a really good opportunity to elevate the New Day and to have them getting that real heat by not following up on whatever they were going with the whole Big E thing.
Yeah.
That just kind of disappeared, nothing more out of it. I think that if they would have followed up and they would have kept that in the storyline, we could have seen the New Day get that organic heat that they needed. Bob, I know you've never been a really big fan of the New Day. What about the War Raiders? Do you buy
No, they're a goof tag team, a clown tag team. They're a, dog and pony show. Yeah, they're big and fat and they can move. So what? You can't take teams like that serious. Like taking Toni Storm serious in AEW. She can wrestle when the bell rings, but she's a clown character. You can't take that serious.
Oh, Bob, you and I are going to
should have let Megan Bayne win the title. By Garsh.
I will agree with that. But well, this is an AEW. We did a recap of that earlier.
Well, I just mentioned goofs.
No, I'm talking about. I was about to get it. No,
she came to my mind. Tony Storm.
I was talking to myself. I was about to go into that rabbit hole. Next we have Penta. Or do we? Or did I skip a page here? Nope, doesn't look like it. Penta versus Dominic Mysterio. The match is just okay. I just cannot buy Dominic Mysterio as being a real threat to anybody. I just don't. You want to talk about a goof? That's the way I look at him. I think the crowd is starting to kind of cheer him a little bit. I won't take away from the fact that he's done a great job of getting that real organic heat with him being a heel. But that's about all I can say about him. Even with the match against Penta, I just thought the match was okay. We seen Breaker interrupt, and he speared Dominic out of his shoes, and then he followed up with spearing Penta. I do predict, I just have this sickening feeling that at WrestleMania we're going to see Rey Mysterio get that IC title. But what you guys think about this match? Bob, is this match worth it?
I didn't see it. Nothing special. I've never been a big fan of Dominic. I've been a bigger fan of going to the gym than I am of Dominic, and he's not a fan of that either, obviously.
Right.
I've just never been a big fan. He's riding off his dad's coattails, and more power to him. I mean, he's got a job. He's making money. Hey, ride the wave until it crashes on shore. But do better when the bell rings. Do better outside the ring.
Yeah.
I think what the thing is with Dominic in the beginning, after the heel turn, he got the nuclear heat that they wanted him to get, right? I mean, I seen him post heel turn twice here in Wichita live, right? And as soon as he couldn't even get a word out, get the mic to his mouth, right? The problem right then when they had that quote unquote lightning in the bottle is they did nothing with it. They used him, just like I said, they used Bailey to try to make a irrelevant title relevant. They used him because of the nuclear heat. They threw him in with certain baby faces they want to elevate. Okay, we'll throw him in there with Dom, and if he's going to get the heat, let them do their stick. But I think now that has worn off, like you said, to the point at certain times, he's kind of cheered a little bit. I think he's more of a comical show at this point with certain things they do with him, like the thing with the chicken nuggets. Okay, that's played out. I don't give a shit. I got kids that eat chicken nuggets. So what? I don't need to know that that's all you order every time you go out. Right. I'm still not sold on a Rey Mysterio heel turn. I think if anything, Dom somewhere down the road, instead of the Rey Mysterio heel turn, return some type of favor to save his dad from getting jumped from somebody. I think that's how that plays out. To go back to something you said earlier, but yeah, I think the match WrestleMania for the IC title. I think it's basically, to me, it's two horse race, and that's Braun Breaker and Penta. But I would not be surprised if Tom doesn't do some. They don't do some trickery stuff. But I think that would be used as I said, to elevate one of the other two back forward.
Yeah. So next we go to backstage where we see Rey Mysterio requesting a match against El Grande at WrestleMania. Of course, Pierce granted it. This is my problem with this. What's the payoff? Like, why should we be interested in this match at all? Besides it being, a Hall of Famer, a legend, in this match. But what is the real payoff for this match to even happen? That's why I mentioned, the mass versus mass type of a match to prove that, El Grande Americano really was Chad Gable for all the people who are too stupid not to believe that it is him. Is this something, Bob, that you are even remotely excited to see at WrestleMania?
No, it'd be a great time to refill the Mountain Dew and change chips to Doritos or something like that. I don't know.
Here's the thing: if because I'm telling you right now that has to be, no matter which night they put that on, one or two, that's opening match, right? So for me getting there, that's one of those. I'm in no rush to get to my seat yet, right? I'll go ahead and hit the concession line because I'm in no rush to see that. That's one of those matches, and I think both of you guys would agree that if WrestleMania was still all in one day, that would be a pre-match. That would be a pre-show match, if that. Right?
Yeah. So
that would be an internet.com. Hey, log on 6 hours before WrestleMania. We're going to show it to an empty arena.
Yeah. So the reason why I disagree with you about that being a starter match for one or two, maybe if this was wrestling 10 years ago, it would be an opening match. But in today's wrestling, the opening match is just as important as the main event. The opening matches in WrestleMania on both nights is going to be championship matches. On one of the nights, that's going to be Uso and Gunther. And then on the next, whatever night it is, the first match is going to be the Charlotte Flair match against Tiffany Stratton. That will be our opening matches for night one and night two, because nowadays they use those matches to get the crowd going. I see this Rey Mysterio match being either number 2 or number 3.
I tend to disagree. Okay, if we're gonna go title matches on night one, that fatal 4-way for the only reason I say that because since they started doing the 2 nights, right? Dallas they didn't have any title matches the very first match each night, but in LA the very next year it was the first match of night one was John Cena Austin Theory for a news fest unless you're a kid for Cena. But I think if they do I think night 2, I think they go with one of the women's titles.
If I'm not dead on right about what I just said, then that means you have to jump over the security barriers at WrestleMania because you're going to be there. And you have to streak across the ring.
Now I will say this: I'd have no problem doing that if I ain't worried about going to jail. Cook County or Clark County Jail is not far from where I'm staying. But if it wouldn't give me a lifetime ban, it would be worth it. But I might want to be, my grandkids when he gets older, hey, take me to a WWE. Oh, I can't. I'm going to have to dress up like a Bobby Valentine, New York Mets, and, put all this stuff on. Just go sit there and do an Eric Bischoff, you 3 minutes too long and, rip everything off. But that'd be too comical. Cooker, you got anything to add to that one?
That's not a whole lot.
I could do without it.
You do without it. You don't want to see my naked body come across your TV on Peacock.
Maybe Liv Morgan, is she in the match? She could do the streaking.
So we are already at
we can go dig up Mae Young.
Oh no, I'll pass on that too.
We are already at the so-called main event. Speaking of digging up somebody, I made this little joke the other night on somebody else's podcast. They got upset with me. What I said is that it is rumored that Owen Hart and Chris Benoit is going to make a surprise appearance at WrestleMania, and it's going to be a castle. It's going to be a coffin match. So that's what I'm hearing.
Oh,
People are thin-skinned. They got upset that I said that. So we already had the so-called main event, which is not a wrestling match. It's a confrontation. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. It all boiled down to this. Seth Rollins trying to manipulate Paul Heyman, give him his doubts about both Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Basically saying these guys don't respect you. They're abusing you. Seth Rollins then got a little physical, smacked Paul Heyman in the face a couple of times, pushed him, got him in the corner, and then we heard CM Punk's music hit. CM Punk was on top of Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins winds up doing a stomp on CM Punk, and as Paul Heyman is checking on CM Punk, Seth Rollins motions like he's going to do the stomp on Paul Heyman. Instead, he slams his foot on the mat right next to Paul Heyman, saying, "Now you owe me a favor." I see no point of this. It didn't add anything as far as I'm concerned to this situation that's going on. David, what is your thoughts on this?
I think totally the opposite. It added more manipulative intrigue, right? Okay, without Seth Rollins in the element, right? Let's take him out just for a moment. Then you have Roman and Roman and CM Punk with who's Heyman going to be there. Now you throw the Seth Rollins factor in it, and now Seth saying, "Hey, you owe me a favor." Couple things that I keyed in on was Paul Heyman's reaction after he rose up after the possible stop. You have to look for it, but it almost halfway through the reaction, it went from shock and fear to kind of like, whoa, kind of like, almost like wait a minute, there's a light bulb, like all of a sudden a dark black light bulb in that, demented mind of Paul Heyman went off, right? Like, hold on, right? Because I still think, and I've said this last Saturday, and I've said this before online elsewhere, Seth Rollins is winning this triple threat, and Paul Heyman is walking out with Seth Rollins, right? But now it's kind of like it's obvious if he does that, because it's almost, I think, with the Seth Rollins saying that, it adds so much to the, well, yeah, there we go. There was the Easter egg for him to go with Rollins, but then it's like, do you really think he'd do that to Punk? And then now that makes Roman the third wheel. It's almost it's kind of like when your wife says, "Hey, go dump the trash." Well, it's half empty. No, it's half full. Kind of the same thing with this, in my eyes.
So, Bob, what do you think about this segment?
I just saw it as another boring talking segment, but that's just me. They do the same thing every single week. Give us something new once in a while.
Now that part I do agree with. It's almost like the only difference was it's on Monday instead of Friday, and Roman wasn't there, right? Do make it a little different, because now, okay, we've had Punk attack Roman. We've had Rollins attack Punk. Now who, come Friday night, I'll lay it out there now. Who's Roman going to come and attack Friday night? It's his turn.
Yeah, you're going to have two guys there Friday, and one guy won't be there Friday, but it'll be a confrontation. And stay tuned for WrestleMania next week.
Yeah, and that's my thing. I mean,
I do wish they would switch it up a little bit. It's intriguing enough, but if you're gonna I'd much rather you not be there and do video vignettes and video interviews if you're gonna rehash the same stuff too, though.
Yeah, we're we're a week and a few days from WrestleMania. I really thought we would see Raw, who was supposed to be their A show, kind of kick it to another gear. Just don't feel like they have. I definitely feel like SmackDown's been a lot better than Raw. We'll see what's going to happen on SmackDown. Now, next week, Raw should be really, really exciting, and SmackDown as well, with it being the go home shows for WrestleMania. But I won't hold my breath to wait for that to happen. I would grade Raw C plus last night. What about you, David?
I'd give it a C plus. The only thing I'd give it would have made it higher is if they would have spoke more. And I get it, he's on SmackDown, but about Kevin Owens, maybe to make intrigue because alluded what we talked about on Saturday. But yeah, C plus is being about generous. That is extending the curve a little.
Yeah. What about you, Bob?
That's about what I'd give it too, C plus. But you got to realize that WrestleMania, no matter what, is going to be good. The build-up is always just get you excited for it even more. Right. But if you're not excited already for Mania, no matter what they do before Mania, then you're not going to care. I always love Mania. It always pays off. And to me, it doesn't matter. The build-up is great because they have those cool videos before the actual matches, But the matches will be great. I just have faith in the guys that when the bell rings, the matches are going to deliver, and that's all I care about. I don't care who wins. I don't care who loses. Just give me exciting matches.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I think WrestleMania. Like I said, I always like WrestleMania as well. I love the big feel and the energy. But yeah, I mean that's the recap of Monday Night Raw already.
I want to add something to that about WrestleMania too. So I have, Bob,
WrestleMania 2. You probably weren't even born then.
Kevin on the
what are you talking about?
No, I watched every one of them. I'm old enough to remember closed circuit television, right? But and going to the movie theater and watching it, or Shrine Mosque Auditorium in Springfield, Missouri, where I'm from. But that's where I also used to see wrestling at the Chase as a real little kid. But people, if you go to WrestleMania, now, if you got millions of dollars to blow, and sit ringside, okay, cool. You don't go, you go for the experience, because anybody will tell you that's ever been, especially the way they do it now. Last year, I know people that went to Philadelphia from all over the country that didn't even go to WrestleMania. A bunch of them went to the ECW arena. The Blue Meanie had a watch party each night to benefit his one of his dog charities, $5, right, to get in and watch it inside the ECW arena. So it's an experience all in itself. I won't say that it can be unmatched. I mean, I'm a wrestling fan, so I've never been to the Super Bowl. I've been to one World Series game in my whole life. So, I mean, this tops it all to me. Like you said, if you're not excited already, there's not much that they could probably do to get you excited.
Right. Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do is you go to the show just looking to have a good time. Don't go there expecting things that aren't really within, like, don't expect The Rock to come back with Owen Hart on his shoulders and then be disappointed because in your mind, that's what you were going to see. Just go there and enjoy it, especially when you pay the money. If we're watching that on Peacock for next to nothing, and if we make a little bit of expectations and we're disappointed, we're only out a few bucks, but you're out a lot more than we are.
Just a case in point, you just made a great point. As a Steve Austin fan and as an Attitude Era fan, it made perfect sense for him to be at WrestleMania last year in the Undertaker's spot, right? But they threw enough intrigue in there that it's like, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? So even if you didn't, as me, being a Steve Austin fan, I was just as happy and marked out just as loud to see the Undertaker as I would Steve Austin, right? So when you, like you just said, Cook, when you go expecting this and you don't get it, you could walk away disappointed. You defeated yourself. Like you said, you should have stayed home and watched it on TV.
Well, a lot of fans do that. They build it up in their mind. Or they go, I read this, I read that. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And they believe it so much when it don't happen, then they're disappointed no matter what happens. And I bet you Austin will be there this year because he's going to be there this year.
Yeah. You should have seen how many grown men were burning Cody merch and throwing Cody merch in the trash in LA after he lost to Roman. And I'm like, first thing I'm thinking, They
bought
don't
that.
care what you do with it. They've got their money, right?
Exactly.
But it's just to see, it's like, it's a story, right? Stories happen, right? And when you expect it in the beginning, then where's your payoff later on? I thought the payoff was way bigger in Philadelphia.
Those people who do that are, the same ones on the internet, crying and talking a bunch of shit. But on the fourth,
I'm just going to say, at the same time, it's just a stupid wrestling show. It's not a cure for cancer. It's not going to bring your grandfather back from the dead. It's to pass the time 3-4 hours, not have to worry about tariffs. You don't got to worry about what Trump's doing today or tomorrow. You just relax and watch wrestling. Whatever happens, happens. And then when it's over, you watch something else.
Yeah. Right. And if not, you turn it off and go to bed.
Well, that's true. I'm going to take some painkillers soon and do that myself.
On the 14th, which is this coming Monday, Casey Thompson, who was supposed to be on last week, unfortunately, he was ill. You got me that time. We are making it up. He will be here on the 14th. And then on the 18th is my interview with Joe Helms, really big on the indie scene. And then on the 21st, a young lady who was on the indie scenes, who goes by the name of Sarah Bubbles, she will be on. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, everybody. Be watching for all the different people I will be having on. I have some ideas for a couple of different shows. That's
I do have an idea. I want to throw one out there to you. As much as the three of us enjoy wrestling and old school wrestling, right? We should do a special, every now and then called a way back when, and we pick a time and whether it be a particular pay-per-view or a particular event. Like I remember, case in point, I just throw one out there, the summer of '86, the Great American Bash Tour, and how that, changed the business, 30 cities in 30 days, right? Ric Flair, defended the title 30 times, things like that. Those are pretty cool to talk about, and people like to enjoy watching and listening to.
Yeah, we talk about that. It's always a possibility. But anyway, guys, this wraps up. Bob, thanks for being on. David, you as well. And we will be back on this tonight. We will be back Thursday. Me and David to do a recap of Wednesday night Dynamite. Will they follow through with what happened on the pay-per-view on Sunday? Time will tell.
Will Megan Bain be there?
I'm guessing she will be.
I'll fast forward until she gets there. I'll tell you that.
What about Nick Wayne's mom?
You can have her. I'll take Megan. Because unlike Megan, Nick Wayne's mom don't belong on TV. I wrestled his father, though. I wrestled his father.
Did you
back in the 80s?
Hey, there we go. There's a story for an upcoming show way back when.
But I wrestled his father back in the 80s in tag team matches. And because his father was old at the time, we'd do the 2 out of 3 fall matches. He'd have the first fall, go back to the dressing room. They'd have other matches, come out, do the second fall, go back, have other matches, do the third fall. Because his dad was old. That's not a knock on him. He was a nice guy. I'm just telling you the story.
Yeah, he had some heart issues. Throughout.
Well, don't all fat people? Let me look at it. I'm about ready to explode right here.
I went and read about Nick Wayne's dad. And
the morbidly obese have 2 problems: heart issues and imminent death.
Yep. But I just can't remember him at all. And I know I was watching those promotions back then.
He wasn't a big star. He was what they call a territorial star. I wrestled him in Memphis, the Memphis territory, and he wasn't the top star. Obviously, Jerry Lawler.
I remember reading about him in the magazines, right? Springfield, Missouri. We got a lot of world class Memphis. Things like that, but I remember reading him more in the magazines than even seeing him on regional TV.
This was back in like '87. That's how long ago it was. Oh, that hurt.
Billy Joe Travis back in the day.
Oh yeah. I got a story. I almost got divorced because of him. Nice guy though, but I got revenge because I lived. Oh, wait a minute, that's not revenge. Oh crap.
I miss the days of the magazines because that's back when we were able to truly have surprises in professional wrestling, unlike today with the internet and I don't get it. People just don't like being surprised.
Yeah, but you could go surprises or free porn. I don't know. I think I'd go with the free porn over the surprise. I'm just speaking for the normal people, not me in general,
He's speaking for the non-wrestling fans out there,
right?
Which they kind of outnumber us in the majority standpoint.
Yeah. But for the record, Raw was number 1 last night on Netflix. I look it up every week.
Was it?
You look up the Netflix, the list of the number 1 TV shows.
Yeah.
Raw's every week. It's number 1.
Real quickly, are they doing that bi-weekly now, or because I know that they had at first when the first Raw on Netflix, the matrix of how they judged it was different, and they said that they had a different model that they were going to view how they the live viewership versus how they tell if you watched it live versus 2 hours after it went off
that part I have no idea. It's like you go to the Netflix app or whatever you call it, and you look at they always have the top 10 TV shows, and Raw's always number 1.
Yeah,
but the same they do the same thing with Peacock. They go, we had this many people watching live. They don't know. It's wrestling. You believe what they say? Come on.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. I know that Raw has been kind of staying at 3 million viewers per week.
But Meltzer is the smartest guy in wrestling, and people don't give him the credit he deserves. So it's wrestling.
Right.
Not everybody knows everything.
Right. Except for me.
That's the beauty of it.
Watch the podcast.
That's the beauty of it. Nobody's answer is wrong. It's
most wrestling fans are wrong, but it's just me.
I did. Are there really any wrestling fans left? Because I just
you know what the reality is? The reality is that your average person is a fan. Your average person watches the show because they love it, and they watch it, and they go on and watch something else after, and they take it for what it is. And then you got the idiots that just engulf the internet with their hate and their criticism and their critiques. If Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte make a mistake, it's they botched this, they botched that. Your average fan is just watching the show. The internet gives people a voice, like Vince Russo and people like that. You don't need to keep people like that on them. Don't give them a voice.
But Bob, you have to admit what happened between Tiffany and Charlotte.
I thought it was horrible.
That was just more than a little botch. I mean,
no, I'm just talking about using them and not even using that segment as an example, but. Yeah, wrestling fans, like you could have a great match and then one mistake in a match, and they focus on they slipped coming off the ropes, the whole match sucked or something. They don't give them credit because never been there. They don't know what they're talking about. Now that Tiffany Stratton Charlotte segment from last week was a train wreck. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah, I think that, and honestly, I lay a little bit more blame on Charlotte than I do even Tiffany, because Charlotte's the veteran between the two. I was shocked that the crowd was able to get into her head the way they did. But normally when things start going wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you really kind of look at the veteran to kind of help guide it back into place versus what happened with Charlotte?
Who knows anymore? Now they just kind of do whatever they seem to want to do. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. I don't know, and now they're supposed to, all this real heat between the two, because I guess they're saying Tiffany Stratton kind of went in business for herself when she mentioned the 0-3 with her marriages and what she said about Ric Flair. But I mean, look, that wasn't even part of the issue. The issue was that everything just fell apart.
But there's also the possibility that they did all of that just so we're doing this. Exactly. It's like years ago, there was that supposed heat between Becky Lynch and Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Everybody bought into it. And the fans they're so ridiculous, right? They get pissed because they can't believe anymore. And then when they do something they believe, they get pissed when they find out that wasn't even real. Right. So like Becky Lynch and Charlotte, that heat they built up, they were really mad at each other. And then after they had that big match at Mania, they showed a picture of them laughing in the dressing room. And one of the captains was like, "And you people believed it all. Kayfabe's not dead." It's you can't win with the fans anyways. They want to believe, but then when you give something that makes them believe, and then you find out that was also a work, they get pissed at that. They get pissed because they were convinced it was real.
And they can't win. Go even further,
let me say this real quick, David, and then I'll let you talk. I'm sorry. Look, and you're dead on, Bob. I wouldn't doubt at all that this was done purposely because of exactly what you said. It doesn't matter if you think something was good or bad. What really matters is you talking about it, and everybody's still talking about it right now.
But
Still,
at the same time, you're talking about, you're not talking about it so much as, a great segment or even a bad segment. You're talking about it now as if though they have legitimate heat.
Right.
So in the mind of the fans, something's going to break loose in that match. They're going to really be going all out because they hate each other for real. So they create that belief, even though it's not true. Even maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just saying. But for Ric Flair to even come out and complain about they went too far. Grow up, for God's sake.
That's where I call, there's where I call BS on that, right? Where he comes out and says that, because let's go back even further. You brought up Becky and Charlotte, right? Rewind it even further to the Divas Championship era. Charlotte was the Divas champion and was going into a segment with Paige. And Paige said something about Reed, right? And
that was great. That was great.
That was cinema. Did you hear? Hey, do you remember if Ric Flair came out and said, "Hey, that was a low blow. You should have kept my deceased
I actually
son
think he
out of-"
did.
No.
I think he did, didn't he? I'm pretty sure.
No.
I don't know. It's so long ago.
Everybody else around was like, that was kind of low, even the fans. But then come to find out that was probably talk as you would have, if there was a going off the script and in business for yourself moment, that would have been it. But that added more fight to the match.
Oh, definitely, because you believe
they were trying. Yeah, and they were trying to make Charlotte. So it's almost like this, just like all of that elements, and put that in there now, right?
Yeah. To me, nothing should be off limits.
Tiffany is rushed into this spot, right? Charlotte's, even though as good as she is rushed back into the spot. Now we're going to make it look like a train wreck. Are they building? Here's it like this. Are they building it to make Charlotte's return look as bigger than it would, normally would be?
It didn't help that she actually looks like a train wreck too. I mean, and I hate to be one to criticize looks, but my God, she just looks awful.
It did not help that am I the only one that thought that their outfits look exactly the same? Except even Charlotte having that around her
even
neck.
In my day, they had this thing, no matching tights,
Yeah. So it's like,
well, the first thing I said when I seen both coming down the entranceway was, I said, geez, is Vince McMahon back? Are we about to have a lingerie match?
Oh, I hope so.
Oh, man.
But you know what? I'm actually going to take up for both Charlotte and Tiffany for a moment, though.
Well, a lot of people probably are. Oh, I went there.
These wrestling fans look at professional wrestlers like these guys are supposed to be robots, that they're perfect, that they cannot make mistakes. They're human, and everybody's going to have a bad day. And Charlotte Flair, in real life right now, she's going through a lot of shit. I have no doubt, at least in my opinion, that the reason why a lot of these people in the audience were able to get into her head was because I don't think Charlotte Flair is exactly Charlotte Flair 100% right now. That's my opinion. Again, to your point, Bob, this could have just been planned as far as we know.
It's never know. Hopefully Charlotte has a thick skin and doesn't read comments online, because that'd make you go crazy.
My goodness. Good.
I mean, even I very rarely comment on the looks like that, but man, I'm not kidding you. She just looked unhealthy. She looked sickly. She looked horrible.
Looked like do you remember how big
she looked like she was trying?
Do you remember how big Charlotte Flair's legs were? Now, I'm not talking about fat. I'm talking about
now they're like skinny as hell.
Yeah. Skin and bones. Like, there was no definition or anything.
She's playing Karen Carpenter. Oh, you guys don't know who.
That's
Karen
what you just took it right. I was getting ready to say,
52 years old.
Is she cosplaying at the next Karen Carpenter convention?
By the way, that's a guilty pleasure. When Karen Carpenter comes on, silence. I'll have to listen. Voice like an angel.
So we
I used to work at a radio station, and when Neil Diamond came on, Sweet Caroline,
I love Neil Diamond too.
Yeah.
So Carpenter and Evil Knievel then.
What? Uh-oh.
Carpenter, Evil Knievel. We know those are your two of Don't Bother You. If
Evil.
Right?
Yeah.
Bob, is that correct?
What?
Evil Carpenter and Evil Knievel.
Oh, yeah. Don't interrupt me. Don't talk bad about Evil. Well, in my house, you can't talk bad about Terry Funk, Evil Knievel, or Muhammad Ali, or the Great Malenko. By God damn it!
I just came across something about Funk during one of his retirement matches. One of his good friends, I think his name was Sam. He was a professional wrestler, but they got into it because Sam wasn't booked to be performing. And
Are you talking about that referee guy? That
yeah,
Dennis Stamp?
Yeah,
Dennis Stamp?
Yeah, Dennis Stamp. That's it.
Well, that's like 25 years old. That whole thing.
But the video for some reason came across my news feed today, and I'm like, man, that brings back memories.
That's crazy because I brought that. Remember, I referenced that video. I brought that
Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he was the one. He was gonna leave, and Terry's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm not booked." And he's like, "Yeah, you are." He's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna ref mine and Brett's match."
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yep. Good old Funk, man.
But who knows how much that was real?
Right.
Hey, so I talk to people that know Jake Roberts' daughter that's in that movie, right?
Oh, the fat one?
They said a lot of that with him and her was completely staged.
Really?
Like they tried to make
she was really fat. That part was really
you couldn't get it. You couldn't get past
I apologize. I apologize. Let me apologize to anyone listening. I don't mean fat. I mean morbidly obese, for God's sake. There is a difference.
But
the reason why I have a hard time believing that was staged they really had that not great of a relationship.
No, I'm not denying that, but we're talking about where they tried to make it seem like they hadn't seen each other. They seen each other all the time when he
how could you miss her?
Nebraska. Yeah, no.
She had her own son.
But what they didn't leave out the fact that, it was always about drugs and money. Right.
Well.
Yeah.
My money's always on the smart drugs.
I was always a Jake Snake fan. I love Jake.
Still am. Always will be. Right.
He was good. He just couldn't handle life.
Greatest Georgia Championship Wrestling television champion of all time, in my opinion.
He did have great matches with Ronnie Garvin back in the day.
And Buddy Roberts.
He doesn't get enough credit for being one of the best promo cutters.
You say one of the great minds of wrestling who wasted his mind.
Yeah, he did.
Definitely got to be top one, top two of never to have be a legitimate world champion.
Well,
Scott Hall being number 2.
Not everybody can be a world champion. You could never put a title on Jake like that because it takes a responsibility beyond being the champion.
Well,
you have to be able to show up coherent. You have to be able to show up responsibly for morning radio interviews and nighttime TV interviews. And you have to be able to remember things that he couldn't possibly remember, like get to the arena on time and do this and that. You can't rely on people like that. That's why Kerry Von Erich was the champion for a month. Because he had he was
actually 18 days.
Whatever. Yes, because he was a scatterbrain.
Yeah. Why do I swear I thought Jake carried the title at Mid-South Wrestling for some reason?
Well, that's not the world title though.
That's not.
You could have secondary champion. I'm talking about legitimate world champion.
Even in the Mid-South area, Cooker, correct me if I'm wrong. The major world titles were the NWA Jim Crockett Promotions.
Right. Yeah, usually
the WWF and the AWA.
It's like in Mid-South, the North American champion was their big championship.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like people would say, well, Jake should have been world champion. He could have never been Hulk Hogan, like in the 80s when he was popular. If he was world champion, Hulk Hogan, you realize what Hulk Hogan had to deal with besides all the dates of wrestling? He had to make appearances at anything you can imagine besides a Make-A-Wish. He had to make appearances on talk shows and radio shows and gym openings and all these Toys R Us things, all these different things that nobody else in that era could have done or would have done and done it like he did it and represented the company like he did.
And just being honest, I couldn't stand Hulk Hogan until the NWO because I did not like cheesy wrestling. Now, as an adult, at the age that I'm at, looking back in those days, I appreciate him and everything he did for professional wrestling.
Did you hear?
But back in those days,
The original.
Fan.
I've had this since 1985. Did you
40,
hear, brother?
40 years old.
Where are we at? Did you hear, Hulk? I'm sorry. That's all right. But brother, he liked it. He liked you, right?
I
Yeah.
will always say this. Anytime I talk about wrestling, growing up, watching the promotions that was available to me, the Mid-South, Atlantic Championship Wrestling, it was totally different than what was happening in New York. The cartoon character basic gimmicks that they had. I'm sure that if I would have grown up in New York, I would have, that was what I would have wanted. And if I watched Mid South for the first time, I probably would have liked Mid South because it was just so different. We are creatures of habit. So whenever I was a kid, I wanted my Mid South Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Anything different from that, didn't like, you know. But again, now I'm at the age that I'm at now, I go back and watch WWF back in the 80s, and I can appreciate what was happening, you know, that type of wrestling. Now I can, but back then, if it wasn't, again, Mid South or Atlantic Championship Wrestling, I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
I was fortunate enough to grow up, you know, live in Springfield, Missouri, growing up, where I'm born and raised.
AWA, huh?
Oh no! Here's the litany of everything I was able to watch as a kid. So Saturday mornings consisted of, after cartoons, but wrestling wise, from 10 to 11 was WWF Wrestling Challenge or whichever one of those regional shows. From noon to 1 was World Class. Now Sunday, World Class was on in the morning, WWF in the afternoon. And then you had the 6:05 time slot. Then we got Mid-South UWF late at night on a Saturday night. Then you had, if you had cable, you had ESPN, you had the Showboat with the AWA. And then, you know, we had this one channel when you, depends on what side of town you lived on, you could get it in. You could get Memphis Wrestling at 2 a.m. on Sunday, right? So I was able to appreciate all of them, you know, but if I had to choose one of the genres, I don't know. I was always growing up, I liked them all, but if I had to choose one or the other, I got to go with Jim Crockett Promotions and the National Wrestling Alliance, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And coupling that with, because that was the NWA 10 pounds of gold, as you see right here. That was the traveling world title that went to World Class, that went to Mid-South, that went to Florida Championship Wrestling, right? So the only place it didn't go was New York, right? So to me, as a 49-year-old wrestling fan, and I've been a wrestling fan since I was 3, the first time my grandfathers took me to see Harley Race versus a young Ric Flair, it's always been about that, you know, and I hate the tribalism, the what you see today. So today, that would be Cooker, you being an AEW guy, and KG, you being a WWE guy, and you know, neither one of y'all shit don't stink. And here I am stuck in the middle. I just like wrestling.
Right. But I was such a hardcore Southern wrestling fan that I told Travis Arndorf, who was Paul's son, Mr. Wonderful's son, on the podcast the other day. I remember when I found out that Paul Arndorf went to WWF. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. Because of that, I hated Paul Arndorf. I thought that he was a traitor. I couldn't understand how he could do that. Oh yeah, man, I was a Southern hardcore wrestler. You know, Ernie Ladd, Junkyard Dog, Bob Cook.
What?
You know, George South, which by the way, I've been trying to get Mr. South on the podcast forever now. I love George South.
George is a great guy.
The Mulkey brothers. While
Love
you're bringing
those
up the Mulkeys, you know, and I don't want to use the word of what people describe them, but they're the ultimate one though was in Mid-South in the UWF, and that was Mike Boyette.
Oh yeah.
You talk about a guy, Cooker. You remember Mike Boyette?
Not offhand. Was he a loser? Was he one of those jobbers? You're going to call him a jobber?
Yes, and I didn't.
I hate that word. Unbelievable.
enhancement talent is what they call him now.
I hate that word too.
But he, that's where Watts was showing the people's records on, before the match, right? And this guy was like 0 and 185. And the crowd loved to boo him and loved to see him lose. And people are like, he'll never. No, he's drawing money. What do you mean? People are paying to see this guy lose.
Bob, how well did you know Bob Watson, Cowboy?
Bill Watts?
Bill Watson, yeah.
I knew him all right. I met him when he came to WCW in 91 or whenever it was he came and ran the company for a while. He's the one who gave me that moniker, the best punch in wrestling and all that silliness. He's the one who did that. But I got booked a lot more because of him, because he liked me. And I used to like sitting in the dressing room and he'd tell you stories and whatever. And his kid, Eric, I got to work with him a lot. And he actually had me teach his son, Eric, how to throw a punch. So every time I get around Eric, we'd go off private and practice punches. But Bill was always cool to me. But other people have different experiences with him than I did. But he was always cool to me.
That's what I was going to ask. How hard was he to work for? Because
he was.
Stories.
I heard him yell at guys, and you'd call him into the locker room, and you just shut that door, and you'd hear him yelling at him. I got Sting saved me from getting yelled at one night by Watts, which was a good thing. But yeah, he was always cool to me.
Yeah, one thing I always tell people to shut the fuck up when they talk about that Bill Watts was racist. I went, come on. I said,
one of his best friends was Ernie Ladd. One of his best friends was Ernie Ladd.
Bill Watts. Hold on, David. Bill Watts was one of the first promoters to have a black man as his top guy, JYD.
The Junkyard Dog.
Ernie Ladd was one of his bookers.
I think Bill was in charge of WCW when Ron Simmons became world champion.
Yes, he was the booker.
Ron Simmons. Yep, absolutely. People are just crazy. But
anyway, that usually comes from somebody. Let's not go ahead and sugarcoat it. It usually comes from a black person who doesn't think they were treated correctly by the white person. Example, Bill Watts as a promoter. So they're going to say, well, he was racist. He didn't give me the push. He didn't do this. But they don't realize what he gave JYD a push and Butch Reed a push and Ernie Ladd was his booker. You don't put the company in his hands of a guy you don't, if you're a racist, you wouldn't let Ernie Ladd be in charge of your entire company.
Right. Exactly.
Yep,
exactly.
Absolutely, man.
But the same people, they say the same thing about Hogan. I'm friends with some of Hogan's best friends. Brian Blair, is one of my best friends.
Yep.
And he said he's never seen Hulk say anything racist, and he knows Hulk better than anybody. He's known him since he was a kid.
Well, maybe.
And this is well documented. Real quickly, Booker T and Stevie Ray will tell you
exactly
who told Eric Bischoff, "This is your tag team. This is who you need to get behind." Hulk Hogan, not Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson wanted to keep him as Kane and Cole. Remember that?
And if you go look at a Tony Atlas interview about Hulk Hogan, he's 100% a Hogan friend and a fan. He won't cut him down to say anything, but he said Hogan's not racist.
I don't even think Bad News Allen ever had a racist, anything bad to say about Hogan in that respect either. And he was
I don't know.
There was a
guy. Bad News was a cool guy though.
Yeah, there's a guy that I don't know if you guys remember the reality show Tough Enough, and it was the very
I love that show.
It was the very first winner of Tough Enough, Maven Hoffman.
Yeah.
Maven Hoffman actually has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, very popular one too.
One of the episodes, he was talking about Hogan, and he's like, "Look, when I first came on, there was a lot of guys who hated me. Hulk Hogan was not one of the guys. Hulk Hogan always treated me so kindly."
I saw that.
Better than the other, wrestlers. And Maven's a black guy. So, people.
And again, the same thing that Bill Watts got as the promoter, Hogan gets as the top star. If you're somebody in your mind where you think you should have been the top star and you get it in your head that the Hulk held you back, and even if the Hulk did hold you back, it's not what really holds you back, because if Vince saw something in you that meant money, he wouldn't listen to Hulk for nothing if he thought he could make money with the guy. So if Hulk said something to somebody like, well, that guy can't do this or he's not reliable, and Vince listened, that's that guy's fault for actually being what the Hulk told Vince he was, because if Vince saw money, boom, he's going to cash in on it.
One of the things that I've always heard about Vince from multiple people was this. If you're the guy that just kind of went along with, whatever they had planned for you, or if you didn't have the balls to actually stand up for yourself, you didn't do well under Vince. Vince liked people who would fight for themselves, even to Vince. That's just how Vince was. So a lot of these guys who didn't make it as far as they think they should have made it because whoever didn't push them, 9 out of 10 times is because you didn't push yourself
Right.
to get to that next level.
Or like Brutus Beefcake. Brutus Beefcake has nothing but bad things to say about Hulk now, and him and his wacky wife, because they didn't save the money that the Hulk made him in the beginning, and because Hulk is still successful. Now, granted, a lot of it has to do with that lawsuit, but who cares? Because his ex-wife took a lot of his. But the point is, it's jealousy, 100% jealousy, and not being able to accept the blame for your own shortcomings.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. He didn't have an ill will to say about Hulk Hogan when the money was there.
Exactly.
As long as the money was there, the parties, the booze, whatever was being provided, when that was being provided, then all of a sudden, now that it's not being provided, oh my God, everything under the sun. I got a tell-all book. We're going to do a podcast. I'm making porn with your ex-wife, which I wouldn't be surprised if that came out.
Even I don't want to see that.
That's on the next Bubba. That's on the next Bubba the Love Sponge.
Now the big.
So I hate that guy.
Now the big thing is that now Triple H is racist, and I'm like, come on.
That's the dumbest crap I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, exactly. And Swerve Strickland. Look, I like Swerve as an in-ring performer, but other than that, after the pay-per-view on Sunday, apparently Swerve Strickland grabbed the mic and said, "Fuck Booker T," because
I heard that.
And why? Because of their arguments about Triple H being racist, and Booker T's like, the guy's not racist. I mean, but people are people, I guess, and people can't take accountability for their own failures in life.
Exactly, and it goes back to what you just said, Cooker. They want to blame Vince McMahon for their shortcomings, right? When what did they do to produce the shortcomings, right? What did they contribute to it? Same thing. Look, Swerve might have been, a pandemic casualty, right? When he was released, he was still doing the pretty cool things with him on the side, but you were released and not brought back for a reason, right? Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, you were released for a reason. Now, granted, it's good that AEW is around for you to have a platform to work. I'm happy for that. But then don't get over there and say, hey, we're doing all this. We could have done it over across the street if only they. No. If you could have done it across the street, you would have done it when you were across the street.
Well, and they were given opportunities. Bobby Lashley was the world champion, for God's sake.
How many times? And he did not get unfortunately, the character, he's a muscle-bound guy, a bland muscle-bound guy, right? The character did not sell.
Can you sit back? Can you sit back and pop a cool one and say, I remember when Bobby Lashley had that great match with who? Oh, yeah, it was that match with who? Oh, yeah, I remember it was that one match. No, you can't think of one match. You can think of one match? I can't.
Umaga, WrestleMania 23. The only reason they made that cool, the special guest referee.
Was that the Donald Trump stuff or Austin?
That was the Donald Trump, Steve Austin, Vince
McMahon
thing. Steve Austin made that. Right?
So
How many people can sit there and say that they stunned and said, well, he wasn't a sitting con in chief then, but he can now.
Bret Hart's the same way though. Bret Hart's probably the most
my God.
wrestler there is.
Horrible.
And, I mean,
the Goldberg thing. How many times has the guy got to apologize? Okay, hey, I made a mistake. I miscued my kick. And then the
latest, Bret claims that when Goldberg whipped him in the ropes, Goldberg told Bret, watch the kick, and Bret says, I don't know what that meant. I'm like, wait, what? How long you been in the business? I got thrown out of the ring in 1986 by the Barbarian, and he said, watch the big boot, which meant when I get up from the floor, he's going to hit me in the face with a big boot. So guess who was ready for it? Me.
For Bret to say that goes right back to what we was talking about with Tiffany and Charlotte, and about how the veteran is supposed to know better or take control.
Right.
Like, yeah, your dad is Stu fucking Hart. I mean, he trained half the people wrestling right now. Well, lineage to half the people still wrestling, right? You don't know what's the That is the comical thing, and to still hold on to that.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what, it was an accident. Goldberg didn't try to kick his head up; it happened, and that's hey, stuff happens.
You're more.
You think take his brother Owen. Of all the times he did a stupid power driver, he does it backwards on Austin and cripples him and basically put him out of the business. He had a few years, but not as good as he could have had, and not as long as he should have had.
Yeah, and like with
and Austin don't blame Brett all the time. He's not always sitting around going Owen.
Like GR says, this isn't ballet.
Yeah,
it's not.
Like
what am I doing with these? What am I doing with these slippers on?
Like we're talking about Bret Hart,
Santa Claus slippers. Oh,
those are cute. He's so mad at Goldberg right now. Still bitter with Goldberg. It's almost like he was never bitter at Vince McMahon about the screw job, which I'm still. There's still.
Oh,
I still think more people knew about that than what's being told to the.
He's bitter with Hulk Hogan because Yokozuna beat him at WrestleMania 9, and Hulk came out and beat Yokozuna. Brett's still mad about that. And it's all a work, Brett.
Yeah.
You never really won the world championship anyways. And when he was world champion, he was the least drawing world champion of all time, or at least one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think people paid more money to see Bob Backlund get whooped by Kevin Nash than.
Well, that little bit of time, but that wasn't. He wasn't champion very long.
Yeah.
But before that, Backlund drew for 5 years.
Hey, look.
Not worldwide, granted, but.
Right.
Well, but it's still, you were like we were talking about the responsibility of the carriage on your back. Backlund proved he could do it. He was the drawing power. Certain guys aren't the drawing power, no matter how good they are in the ring.
That's the truth there.
Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was not a drawing power. Is the world champion, right? Get it out, give it to him. Get the moment. Now we got to get it off. It was off of him quicker than. It was off of him by SummerSlam, right? Daniel Bryan, how long? He never had very long runs, right? The buildup was better than the aftermath, right?
Yep.
Once you got there, everything fizzled out.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up. I can hear the
awesome conversation.
So
I can hear my dogs scratching at the door.
I can hear my painkillers calling.
I got an empty pill bottle. I would have shook it.
Oh no!
Like I said,
so much for giving my address, and you ain't got nothing to share.
We'll be back Thursday for a recap of the Dynamite. Me and Dirty Mitch. Bob will be back on Tuesday, or if he decides to come back beforehand, maybe we'll be lucky enough to be graced with his presence.
I'm not watching AEW tomorrow night, except with the fast forward button to get to Megan Bain or Penelope Ford.
Hey, would you watch it? Hey, Bob, real quickly. If you were unfortunate enough to be put in jail, right? You're sitting in the booking area, and they've got AEW on TV. Would you watch it then?
Oh, sure.
Okay, I was going to say.
I'm not opposed to not watching it.
I was getting ready to say, KG, if he wasn't going to watch it then, we're never going to get him to watch it.
I actually watch it every week. I record it, and then I just fast forward through, Penelope Ford. Oh, there she is. I'll stop it. Or Megan Bain, I'll stop it.
So you only have about 5 seconds per episode.
Yes, unfortunately, they give the women no time at all.
Pretty much. But you guys have a great week, and we'll see you back on Thursday. Have a good one, everybody.
So long from the Sunshine State.
Yep.